Freedom is in the Sunset by Yuan Hongbing. Dedicated to the Inner Mongolia Plateau that I have always dreamed of. Author's Preface. How to make life a wild and uninhibited display of a free soul. The process has become the brilliance produced by the aesthetic passion in the boundless emptiness. Flowery scars become golden flames on the altar of truth. Become a brilliant moment that eclipses the overlapping of thousands of years. This is a story that has nothing to do with the mediocre, but only belongs to the beauty of life. The problem of life for the noble of calling. From boyhood, this life conundrum is like a ray of beasts. The blood-like flowing cloud lingers in Yuan Hongbing's precipitous soul. Peak. In the second half of the 1960s, the Mongolian nation under the modern Chinese autocracy. The tragic fate experienced strongly shocked Yuan Hongbing's sensitive young mind. So, at the end of the 1960s, embarked on the intellectual youth. Soon after the life journey of a homeless man, Yuan Hongbing came from Inner Mongolia, picking up the most scarlet lightning in the sky thousands of miles above the plateau. On the will of the iron-blooded man cast in bronze, engraved the will that determines his life. Oath of destiny, using the beauty of poetic and rich literature for the withered. Countless young Mongolian men and women under the modern autocratic politics of China now Baihua. A life as green and beautiful as a tree, composes a requiem will be in every twilight of ages to come, with the silver gray. Boundless grass waves rush to the sky, the requiem of the crimson sunset. The tragic fate of the Mongolian nation can make the naked purple in the wilderness. All colored rocks shed red tears for it, however, the tragedy of life. Only by poetizing in the name of free will can it be sublimated into beauty and beauty. And haughty humanity has the same meaning. Therefore, the young Yuan Hongbing is. I chose the path of the fate of the tragic poet. Blood is the torrent of life, splashing in the modern autocratic politics of China. The blood of the brave on the firmament of history, so blazing that the sun. The scorched blood is the ultimate value of life, however, this. The value of life can only be realized in the epic of freedom. Only then can we become the stonemason who carves the humanity of the future. So, for that, the scorching love affair of the bloodstained broken beauty, the young Yuan Hongbing decided to. His handsome and beautiful life is destined to be the tragedy of the Mongolian nation. Luck, as a poetic sacrifice belonging to the beast. The dictator and his imperial literati always try to forge. The despicable hand of history, beautifying evil, erasing the record of real history. Memory. Because they are afraid of being judged by real history. World. The most sinister pathos in the world often does not lie in the tragedy of life itself, but it lies in the blood of humanity destroyed by tyranny, in the hypocrisy of dictators. Withered silently in the history created, gradually faded in the indifferent time. Turned into a gray mist. However, the blood of humanity should not become ashes. Therefore, to make the bloodstains bloom in full bloom in the suffering fate of the Mongolian nation. Always keep the bright red like wild cherry juice, to make the real human nature sad. The drama does not die from the history fabricated by the dictator, the young Yuan Hongbing confirmed. Using the pen of literature as a long sword, a lonely challenge to tyranny. Fighting is my bounden duty. In this way, from the age of 19, Yuan Hongbing began to write novels. The creative process of freedom in the sunset. Make a mighty wind dance in the burning flames. This is Yuan Hongbing's feelings in the long process of creating freedom in the sunset. Touch. This feeling connected with mad passion and beautiful pain. It needs to be picked with iron-gray difficulty. The reason why it is difficult is that Yuan Hongbing tried to create Huame Super. The literary image of the group is the Mongolian young men and women who died under the tyranny. Life, to win the charm of a romantic personality through the ages, beauty is difficult. Yes, the ultimate in beauty is the ultimate in difficulty. The reason why it is difficult is because of Yuan Hongbing's freedom in the setting sun. The creation of Middle started from wandering in the wilderness like a lone wolf. Lang's ragged clothes and the fate of educated youth. The difficulty is not. It lies in the poverty of life, but in the loneliness of heart. As Sandy. Among the Chinese literati, they used words to flatter the tyranny in exchange for. A lowly being is everywhere, regards the soul as truth, humanity. The free man who is the sacrifice of justice is as difficult as wildflowers in the desert. Looking for. And the sense of desolation of life caused by loneliness is even for those who live in the world of iron and stone. The heart is also a kind of difficulty. The reason why it is difficult is because of the Chinese chivalrous spirit that Yuan Hongbing. The cruelty and brutality of the communist bureaucracy and the rampant bureaucracy cannot be ignored. Social injustice, and from an early age, chose for himself. It is the fateful road of a century-old decisive battle with China's modern autocratic tyranny. Literary creation has been stretching on this dangerous road of fate. And be a dance on the blade, the graceful danger is the hero's. Difficult. The reason why it is difficult is also because of the dictatorship of modern Chinese ideology and culture, forcing Yuan Hongbing to carry out literary creation in a secret state. Book. The poems that should be carved on the golden aliosphere had to be forged in the shadows. For Yuan Hongbing, who is bohemian and willing to be like a silver snake. The personality of dancing thunder and lightning is another kind of dazzling difficulty. People in the future look up to the bright starry sky of literary history. You will find that liberty in the sunset is a ruby red of stars, because liberty in the sunset is a rising star. The cohesion of the hard work of the beautiful teenagers on the bronze-colored plateau of Inner Mongolia and Yin. The difficulty of red has won the beauty of the steep personality of this star. Acquired the charm of humanity that can make human beings hold their breath. From Yuan Hongbing stepping out of the educated youth tramp on the wilderness of the Northland. Since the footprints of liberty in the sunset, the poetry of freedom in the setting sun is like a rich. Wildflowers bloom among the shambling tracks the ensuing long years. In the middle of the month, no matter how Yuan Hongbing's destiny changes, the poetic. They are all like a charming and loyal lover, accompanying Yuan. Red ice walks through the autumn with yellow leaves falling all over the sky. The windy winter days, the summers of squalls and thunderstorms. Each sentiment is as bitter as the longing for freedom in the hearts of convicts. Sweet spring. In 1993, after more than 20 years of hard work, the manuscript of Liberty in the Setting Sun is finally complete. Writing out. The moment of the last word in Freedom in the Setting Sun, Yuan Hongbing let out a long sigh like a leopard roaring, like a blood mist splashing through misty blood mist, his eyes carved with steep haughtiness. The eye carved with hard fire, did not find the emerald green joy after the disaster, but only a bright red void can be seen. None. Not long after the creative process of Freedom in the Sunset ended, Yuan Hongbing walks out of the campus of Peking University alone and walks through the northern plains. Wild, chasing the footprints of wild wolves, walking up the steep mountains of the Yinshan Mountains ridge. When he had to stop at a cliff towering over the peaks. On the edge of the cliff, there is no way to go, but only to look at the bronze sky. When the sun was setting, Yuan Hongbing couldn't help crying with her head up. It was a kind of resentment. The feeling of extreme beauty made him howl resounding through the long night. In the ultimate feeling that can touch the hard blue sky, and the kind of tall girl who can be kissed madly by the setting sun with chapped lips. In the extreme sense of Kong Jifeng, Yuan Hongbing realized that he should look directly at the end of life. He disdained continuing his literary creation because he felt that he couldn't write anything better than Liberty in the Sunset. More beautiful humanity, more beautiful poetry and philosophy, and his haughty heart. The heart of a man can only be intoxicated by the ultimate beauty. The ultimate beauty is. It is the pursuit of his life and the epitaph of his life. With the possibility of challenging to the extreme, survival is meaningless. Although Yuan Hongbing has been with him since the Cultural Revolution, The comrades in arms started the struggle against the bureaucratic totalitarian rule of the Communist Party. Political activities, but, in his vision of life, freedom in the creation of In the Sunset is far higher than the value of real political activities. Yuan Hongbing is convinced that Orientals beyond the history of autocratic politics and culture. The glorious rise of the cultural spirit is the beginning of the destiny of China's freedom and democracy. The premise of the pinnacle of history is that human beings examine with deeper eyes. Consider the premise of the inexhaustible richness of free will. Yuan Hongbing firmly believes that with philosophy and poetry as the axe and chisel, the sexual tragedy is a rock, creating a free, beautiful, noble personality sculpture. Like making the burning soul a ray of aesthetic excitement in the background of nothingness. Love, and after a brilliant moment, turned into red ashes. That is the absolute value of life. The end of the creative process of freedom in the sunset means that Yuan Hongbing has fulfilled his responsibility for the truth and the real history. Responsibility for history and true humanity, responsibility for the beauty of life. Therefore, there is only one thing left for him to do. The spirit of modern China has lost the ability to understand free humanity. In the middle of nowhere, by issuing tragic and fearless challenges to autocratic politics. To declare the heroic charm of a free personality. Before that, the long-term struggle against authoritarian politics was full of hardships. In the difficult and dangerous years, Yuan Hongbing relied on his wolf-like sensitive vigilance and masterful tactical principles, and always succeeded in keeping themselves from being reduced to a prisoner. After the completion of freedom in the setting sun, Yuan Hongbing no longer repeated the use of strategies in real-life political activities. The reason is that he is crazy. The heroic style of life likes to be the challenge of the dazzling swordlight in the sun. War, and the emphasis on strategy in the past was only to maintain innovation. The non-prisoner ways of survival necessary for liberty in the setting sun. Mode. At the same time, the life and death that resulted from the completion of liberty in the setting sun. The extreme sense of fate also prompted Yuan Hongbing to decide to abandon the idea of political activities. Based on the principle of strategy, embark on the road of the fate of convicts, with a steep death. To practice his philosophy that life should fade beautifully. Chant the heroic poems that belong to the free personality. Despotism and tyranny. In the age of abuse, the flower of life withered in the dark prison will show a moving and noble charm. At this time, even though Yuan Hongbing already had a wife and was under 2 years old, the youngest daughter, however, still started to create Chinese labor. Alliance for the Protection of the Rights and Interests of the Chinese People's Liberation Army, this is bound to be ruthlessly suppressed by the authorities. Activities of free trade union organizations. He's going to splash his blood. On the altar of Chinese democracy, he only wishes to put freedom in the setting sun. And the handsome and tall man who disappeared on the road to the fate of convicts. The proud back, the back of the heroic man, left as a legacy. Wife and daughter. He felt that only in this way could he live up to his wife. Like the vast sea of clouds bathed in the red sunset. Affectionate can be worthy of the natural charm and enchanting beauty of the little daughter. Appearance. On the morning of March 2, 1994, Yuan Hongbing was arrested by the Chinese KGB, Ministry of State Security secret police arrests. Previous day, Yuan Hongbing had just given a lecture to Peking University law students. First class after winter break. On the night of the arrest, Yuan Hongbing was secretly escorted to Guizhou, Zhengzhou, which has been a place where political prisoners have been exiled since ancient times, is finally clouded. A province that lasts forever. Yuan Hongbing in Beijing colleges and universities and society. His wide influence online has deterred the authorities from trying him in Beijing. Sentenced. The secret police charged Yuan Hongbing with attempting to subvert the socialist system. The specific crimes involved in the interrogation. There are 18 items as follows. 1. Participate in the 80th year as a candidate. The election campaign of the People's Representatives of Peking University. 2. 89-6. In the 4 incident, the establishment of the only teaching institution and higher education institutions across the country was initiated. Teachers' illegal organization Peking University Teacher Support Group and the illegal initiated the holding of the whole school faculty meeting and the whole school party member meeting and wrote an open letter to all grassroots branches of the Communist Party of China. 3. The Wilderland Wind, published in 1990, is a series of denies official philosophical dialectical materialism and uses the book The Aftermath of the June 4th Riots sang an elegy. Twice in 2000 and 1993, Peking University students were encouraged to nominate themselves as candidate for the People's Representative. 5. Inciting Peking University students in 1991. Protest against the Japanese emperor's visit to China, which interferes with the country's foreign policy. 6. In 1992, he illegally edited and published The Trend of History in an attempt to. This book split the Central Committee of the Communist Party. Filed a lawsuit accusing the Renmin University Party Committee and the National News. The Ministry of Publication banned The Trend of History as illegal on 8/1992. On April 14th, the meeting was held and hosted by hundreds of dissidents. The Olympic Hotel conference attended by intellectuals made the bourgeois governmental liberalization thoughts flooded again, September and November 1992. To convene the Great Bell with the participation of state officials and liberal intellectuals. Temple Hotel dinner party in an attempt to overturn this June 4th incident. 1. 0. In the autumn of 1993, to protest Wu Shuqing, president of Peking University. Suppression of academic freedom, personal sit-in demonstrations. 11/9. At the beginning of 4 years, regarding the incident of police brutality against freelance painter Yan Jingxiue, a 300 people signed the protest in an attempt to cause social unrest. 1. 2. Initiate the formation of free trade union organizations involving more than 10 provinces and regions. China Laborers' Rights and Interests Protection Alliance. 13. Trying to form pro-democracy leader group including Wei Jingxing, Min Qi, and others. 1. 4. In February 1994, participated in instigating peasant Christians in a county in Shandong. Entered Beijing to protest the local police's persecution of religious freedom, and means to be a lawyer for farmers' Christian protests. 15. With Chai Ji. Communist Party members with dissident political opinions from different countries form an anti-party bloc. 16. For a long time, through the establishment of public the company, holding and participating in various seminars, etc., to the party, government, and military. Infiltration of key departments after Deng Xiaoping launched the democratic movement and the decisive battle of autocratic politics, the political, economic, and social forces, etc. 17. Wrote an article on the theory of the democratic movement. The book Democracy and the Republic on the Program. 18. Initiated the Chinese cultural revival movement and wrote the reactionary novel Freedom in the Sunset and the philosophical work Proverbs written in the Sunset. China's bureaucratic dictatorship accuses Yuan Hongbing of these crimes. The line, at the level of the principles of justice that modern humans have reached. In general, they are all legitimate manifestations of the basic rights of free people, while the right of liberty to arrest is the real crime belonging to the evil of private ownership by the state power bureaucracy. What saddens Yuan Hongbing the most about modern Chinese people is that most of them have become accustomed to despotism with lowly flattery. Tyranny for meager material existence, they have forgotten life, nobility, and spiritual pursuit. The spirit of the modern Chinese is harsh. Under the tyranny of thought, people are withering day by day, and the withering of spirit leads to the unprecedented depravity of sex. As far as the eye can see, it is full of small and strange things. Deceit, false passion, dirty lust, and critter cowardice. full of personality. Many Chinese seem to have lost all comprehension of freedom, beauty, courage, nobility, justice, and truth, and be content to live in falsehood. Yuan Hongbing is going to turn the authorities' trial of him into a trial of ideological. The judgment of despotism becomes the judgment of despotism, and he is judged with rusty iron shackles. He wants to use this as a free citizen of China. The Lord movement wins moral glory. He wants to use this to counteract the degradation of Chinese personality. Falling in bronze-colored protest. Yuan Hongbing had thought of everything, but nothing but. Fate would put him in a life-and-death dilemma, but he didn't expect. Autocratic iron chains can even bind him to a tragic death. The footsteps of beasts. His first interrogation by the secret police of the Ministry of State Security. During the interrogation, from the carefully designed interrogation content of the interrogator, Yuan, with intuition as sensitive as a red ice blade, he realized that he was hiding manuscripts of a lifetime's work at the parent's home and with a student, and floppy disks, including the literary works Liberty and the Sunset, the political and legal work Democracy and the Republic, the philosophical work inscribed in the manuscript, and floppy disks of Proverbs on the setting sun have been seized by the secret police. Seized. Subsequent facts proved Yuan Hongbing's intuition was correct, and at the moment of intuition, his will is like a lightning bolt. The wind-eroded cliff collapsed in an instant. For the benefit of truth, Yuan Hongbing despises the worldly reputation. Position. For spiritual pursuit, Yuan Hongbing neglected material life resources. Acquisition of materials. He is penniless and has no real property, however, he is a man who is fertile of the soul, as fertile as he is by his spiritual creations. Boundless golden waves of wheat. Freedom in the setting sun is Yuan Hongbing's life creation, but yes, in his values, the creation of life has a higher, independent meaning of his life. This is not only because freedom at sunset middle condenses the fire of his brilliant aesthetic passion, not only because he was lost in more than 20 years of a lonely, and difficult writing career. The verdant life in the book, only through freedom in the sunset becomes the value beyond time, and because freedom in the sunset is the literary sublimation of true history drenched in the blood of humanity, it is he, the last fulcrum to bear the vocation to the beauty of life. In the special, in the historical background forged by the official power and imperial literati, the real history is the outcast. If the real history of the past disappears completely, if this is the case, the Chinese will lose the possibility of moving toward the real history of the future. Can, and will always live in falsehood, because the future is the past. The son of the author, in the shadow of ideological and cultural tyranny, human nature is generally ugly. In the age of humanism and animality, the call for the beauty of life is a kind of beauty. And sad loneliness, however, if China, the world's most large human groups have completely lost even this ability to be alone, then China will never be able to recreate the truth, goodness, and beauty. Future, because social history is made up of people and there is no self. Free and noble personality, there will be no great history consistent with human nature. History fate. Yuan Hongbing realized that the manuscript and software of freedom in the setting sun. On the day the disc fell into the hands of the secret police, he left the interrogation room and returned. After arriving in the cell, a burst of scarlet blood mist suddenly flowed from him like a flame, splattered from between scorched lips. The blood that stained the shadow of the prison red. There is no sorrowful charm in the fog, but only despair. The spiritual pursuit of more than 20 years was destroyed in one day. What a shame. People with. What a shame. As a philosopher who created the philosophy of heroic personality, Yuan Hongbing has got rid of the fear of death into the world beyond life and death. Free artistic conception, and regard the beauty of the moment as the ultimate value of life. It is this extreme sense of free artistic conception and value that makes Yuan Hongbing. At the moment when the strong bloody atmosphere of the June 4th incident has not yet dissipated, he once again launched a heroic challenge to autocratic politics. From 1990, during the period until his arrest in the spring of 1994, Yuan Hongbing and his comrades, a series of political activities became the mainstay of the democratic movement in mainland China. Melody. Anyone who knows Yuan Hongbing can feel that even in the knife. A hard heart that can only make a sound of iron and stone when cut with a sword, Yuan Hong. The ice is also proud and confident. On the Inner Mongolia Plateau, it can freeze the rocks. Even the blizzard cannot freeze his will. However, freedom. Manuscripts and floppy disks of In the Setting Sun fell into the hands of the secret police. Afterward, Yuan Hongbing discovered that he had become as fragile as a weed, as fragile as a weed. Pale as ashes, his rich life was a fallen dead. Skeletons in the bleak swamp. However, Yuan Hongbing is hard after all. As stubborn as a savage. His strong vitality finally made him recover from despair deeper than death. In the midst of it, he raised his bloodshot eyes, and with these pair of eyes that seemed to be carved, the eyes of the scarlet lightning locust, looking directly at fate again, he decided to pay whatever price must be paid for writing freedom. In the Setting Sun, indispensable personal freedom, even if it is limited. Personal freedom. This is a choice higher than life and death because the choice refers to. It is a humanistic value beyond Yuan Hongbing's destiny. This is the most difficult decision because only Xiang Guan. Only by showing the lowly flattery of wagging his tail and begging for mercy can he walk out of the dark prison, but to make a tiger act like a bitch means more than a fire. More painfully difficult. This is a tragic choice, because, to be a dignified, a heroic man is Yuan Hongbing's youthful dream, and it is Yuan Hongbing's dream. The lifelong pursuit of the proud human nature, but to rewrite self. Due to the conditions of In the Sunset, he had to tear bloody. That youthful dream, that lifelong pursuit, I have to pay for my beautiful personality. The price. There's gold under the man's knees. However, Yuan Hongbing bowed his knees. This. It is despicable, and it is despicably carved with high intelligence. It is not enough to be mean, only meanness enriched with wisdom can seduce. Convince the secret police, these shrewd fools, that Yuan Hongbing. They have been transformed by them into mediocre people who are harmless to autocratic politics. People in this kind of belief is Yuan Hongbing's limited personal freedom. By the only possibility. In September 1994, half a year after being arrested, Yuan Hongbing released on bail as a quasi-criminal and to accept lifelong imprisonment. Released in Guizhou as a condition, he walked out of the black prison. Therefore, in Guizhou, the continuous rain in this ancient place of exile, in that perpetual cloud that seems to rot the sky, under the secret police's cobwebs of the rich criminal, under surveillance, Yuan Hongbing began the process of recasting freedom in the Setting Sun. Process. Despite the mental and physical torture of life in a black prison, which made his appearance haggard and sick, but Yuan Hongbing did not stop for a day. Secret writing that borders on madness. For, he has no right to rest. No right to fatigue. At the same time, only in the process of spiritual creation. In the process, he can temporarily forget the humiliation as if his heart was bitten by a poisonous snake. The pain of suffering, for Yuan Hongbing, death is not pain. Survival in exchange for official power kneeling is better than the pain of being executed by Ling Qi. Bitter. In the autumn of 1995, 1 year after Yuan Hongbing was released from prison, freedom. The manuscript of In the Setting Sun has been completed again. He condenses this. The manuscript written with blood, tears, and hardships is called Freedom in the Setting Sun in Manuscript B. However, Yuan Hongbing still couldn't force himself to rest. The will to only pursue the ultimate beauty made Yuan Hongbing decide If you can't create something more artistically valuable than freedom in the sunset, if you don't write work, you will say goodbye to your writing career forever. But at this moment, I had to hold the heavy pen again and start my novel-style autobiography. The writing process of Wenshang. He wants to pass Wenshang and tell the reason why he bowed the knee to the tyrannical authority of the world, not to replace. Defend himself, no one is qualified to defend him, or will. Dedicate all their lives to prisoners of conscience with a free spirit, conduct moral guidance. Control. Manuscript B of Freedom in the Setting Sun can be passed down through the ages. Value and artistic appeal will confirm this. However, Yuan Hongbing must bow to the autocratic authority for him. For comrades in arms and friends who once believed in his heroic personality, especially to the young men and women who once believed his philosophy of heroic personality to be true, let us make a historic confession to honor of the teachers of Peking University. To be able to look directly at Chan with haughty eyes like when he was a boy. The rotten son, to keep my lifestyle wild. Unruly handsome, he had to be. One day, when Freedom in the Setting Sun tore apart China's the Iron Curtain of ideological dictatorship, like the bronze horizon of the Inner Mongolia Plateau. When the bright red sunset appeared in the field of vision of human beings, Yuan Hongbing is likely to enter the black prison again, where it will be covered with blood and rust. Disappeared silently in the shadows. At the moment of disappearing, Yuan Hongbing. In the hero's heart, the soul's depths of wind and fire, will. Frozen only a bright tear that will never flow. He wants to take that drop. Brilliant tears, as a sacrifice to the worst experience of one's fate. Taste. And the tragic part is that to save the life he created. Beauty, he had no choice but to save the human spirit he had created. Ugly once. Although that was the only time in Yuan Hongbing's life. Ugly, though it is ugliness against a noble purpose. Yes, that ugliness is enough to wash away the shame that cannot be washed away by the blood. Carved on Yuan Hongbing's iron bones. The history of China, when will you be able to stay away from man-made? For the sake of the beauty of life, you must bear the sin of humiliation. When will you? Can no longer tolerate the bestiality wearing the golden crown destroying the spirit of freedom. When will you make the Chinese crowd rise as a free species? Family? This sad and maddening question will be like an eagle bleeding. Long wings, accompanied by the aftertaste of Yuan Hongbing's life bell, disappeared in Inner Mongolia. In the vast silver snowstorm of the ancient plateau.